Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we'll be looking into creating this personal finance tracker using only HTML, CSS and JavaScript. We'll be making use of local storage to store these values as well as make use of Highcharts. That's a third-party plugin to display these charts while we can supply some data to it and then it displays us the charts. So we'll have a look into those. Let's first look into the demo of the project and see what can be done with this project. It's a simple kind of tracker where we can add our income and our expenses at one place. And afterwards, we can see that the total expenses and the remaining budget based on your income entered. Alright, let me see if I can change it. So if I do 3000, then see as soon as I start typing, then the remaining budget is calculated as well as the pie chart is updated here. Let's take a look. If I do 500 here, then that gets updated instantly as well, so the pie chart is created again. Likewise, we can also add another expense, let's say groceries. If we look into that and add in some values like 500, again this expense is already shown in the pie chart here, and the percentage is calculated instantly and the pie chart reflects all of the changes. So yeah, this is something we'll be creating. We also have the remove expense button, so we remove it, it's reflected in pie chart, calculated instantly. We can add more, and we can also use drag and drop functionality to sort them. Let's take a look. That's groceries, and this one is general expenses. Alright, so we have this available here. If I want this to be here, that's updated. So we can also learn how we can make this drag and drop functionality as well. So yeah, we have these features. It looks simple at the moment, but while we keep on creating it, it will be wonderful, and you can we can keep on learning a lot of stuff here. All right, let's begin and let's check out the code, how we can develop this application and try to understand how everything is done. All right, to begin with, I've simply created a folder and created these files here. So the first one is index.html. We'll be writing HTML to display everything in the front end. We have script to manage drag and drop functionality, to display charts, to store everything in local storage, fetch from it, display in the front end. Likewise, I have got this style.css to style the front end. Basically, let's have a look into all of these files and check out how everything has been done. All right, so let me hide this first. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Let me make it a little bigger too. Okay, so this is how it is at the moment. So what I have done so far is I have already created the HTML. I'll be taking you line by line, or let's say section by section, how everything has been done and what's the purpose of doing that. All right, so let's take a look. So we have this generic structure of HTML. We have head tag here, there's a title, and I have linked the CSS file here. In the body we have h1 personal finance tracker. We have created a class called container. There is a left column and there is a right column. So what does the left column and right column do? Let's take a look into the actual project here. So the left column here is the income and the budget summary, while the right column is the expenses. Alright, so in the left column, what do we have? We have got this income section where we are displaying the title income. There is input group, monthly income. We have this field that takes the income from the user. Likewise, we have got the budget summary. There's a title. Summary content has total expenses and remaining budget that we can see here, total expenses and remaining budget. And there is this empty div with the ID of budget chart. We'll be displaying this pie chart inside this using Highcharts. So we'll be covering that in a while. For now, we are leaving it empty. All right. So in the right column, we have the expense section. There's a title. There's a title here. We have got the expense list. It could be rent, groceries, utilities. This is just for demo purpose here. We'll be setting them dynamically using JavaScript later. All right, and then we have got this add expense button. This button that is used to create new expense row here, and we can add a new expense there. And below that we have got these scripts which are high chart scripts. So we have got the high charts, we have exporting, we have accessibility things. Let me show you. If we click on this button here, we can see download JPEG, PNG, SVG. So these are all carried out using these scripts, basically exporting scripts. So we can download the chart and then save it in the desktop or anywhere else. So that is it there, and below that we have got our script.js. Need to make a note that script.js should be placed after placing these um, other JavaScript codes. Otherwise, there will be error and we won't be able to display the pie chart. Okay, so make a note of that. All right, let me just simply comment style and comment these scripts at the moment and show you how raw HTML looks like. All right, so let me go through the HTML once again. We have got body, there is a container, there is left column which includes income, budget summary, and there is a right column that includes expenses. All right, so let's take a look. Alright, so this is what it looks like at the moment. We haven't done any styling, so there's just generic text here. There's an input box, there are other input boxes, and just that. Okay, alright, so let's go. Let me simply comment the CSS for now. We'll be looking into JavaScript later, so let me just do go through the CSS first. Alright, so we have got this CSS file. It's already created. I'll go through each of those lines and show you how and what has been done with the CSS. Alright, so this root is used to basically define all the variables um, that will be used throughout the website. Okay, so dash dash primary is a variable that stores the value of this color. Basically we have got all other color codes defined here, and these color codes can be accessed using var method in CSS. Okay, I'll show you in a while. Let's go down. There's a general styling for h1, h2, h3, and I have done a background for these text which is a linear background, and I have accessed primary color and secondary color here using var method. Okay, let's take a look. There is a primary color, there is a secondary color using this var method, and I have done background clip text. Okay, in place of this we could have simply done a color of anything. Okay, anything we would want. So let's say bg like this. That would show you the color, but what I have tried to do here is I have tried to implement a new property here, background clip text, that will basically take up the background as the color of s1, s2, and s3. So basically there is a linear gradient and that will be displayed as the text. All right, so fill color is transparent, and there is we have made it bold. All right, and there is an asterisk rule here. If we do an asterisk and write down the properties here, what it does is it basically resets all the styles, and we can set in the global styling there. Okay, so what it has done is we have done margin 0, padding 0, box sizing, border box, and font family is integer. Okay, so we have done all of this, um, and there are these fallback fonts. So if there's no inter found, then Apple system. If there's no blink, that one, then blink max system. If not that, then there is sans serif. All right, so we'll be using those. There is body tag. We're using the font family. Background color will be background. If I take you there, then the background color is set up in root styling. So this is a better way of storing the color theme colors in the website. And how that helps is that we don't have to remember these color codes again and again. We can simply access these variables and we can use them anywhere else we want. Okay, so background color will be text. What is the text color here? It's this one, dark blue gray. Okay, so we have got that, and a line height of 1.6. Let's take a look into the container styles. Max width is 1200 pixels, margin is 2 rem, auto means margin top and bottom will be 2 rems, and left and right will be auto. That will basically keep the container in the center of the page. If you do auto for left and right, then that keeps the container towards the center. Okay, the padding is 0 20 pixels, means from the top and bottom will have 0 padding, and towards the left and right it's 20 pixels. Background color will be card busy. What is the color? It's white, so we'll be using white color. Box shadow, we have added some box shadow here. Border radius, display grid. And what does this do? Grid template columns 1fr. 1fr means it would give 50% width to each of those child components for this container element. Okay, and there is a gap of 2 rems. All right, and what does container have? So container has this left column and right column. So this template columns would give 50-50 percentage of width to both of those left column and right column. All right, so left column, right column, let's keep the padding of 1.5 rems for now. All right, let's take a look into h1. What do we have here? There is a text align center, margin 2 rems from the top and bottom. There is a 0 margin from left and right. Background, again we have used the background clip. So in place of this, we could have simply used color card busy. Okay, so let me show you. If we don't want these, all of these, if I comment those out and use color pair of card busy, that would work the same, apart from having all of these codes here. Okay, but for trying to learn something new here, what I have done is I've been implementing these new properties. Okay, in place of having this simple background color, we could have a gradient there. Okay, for that purpose that's useful. If we would want to have a gradient color in the h1, h2, or any other text, we could use this method. All right, let's take a look into section. Where are we referring section to? Section means this expense section, or the budget summary, it has the class section, or the income section, that also has the class section. So this section styles will be applied, all of them. So background white, padding, border radius, we have also set the border radius in the variable margin and box shadow. All right, input group. So where are we referring input group? Okay, input group. And what have we done is inside the input group we have label and input. And what does this do? Display flex. Flex direction will be a column, so it will be displayed in each row. So label on one row and input on the another one, and we have a gap. So let's style the input. There is a padding of 0.5 rems, border radius, font size, and transition. What does this transition do? if we are setting all in transition, then whenever this component loads or any changes is there, then all of these are applied with a slight transition of ease. Okay, so try applying transition to elements and you reload your page and see, and there will be a slight transition in that particular element wherever we have applied that. Okay, and for the number, we are doing border color and we are applying a little bit of box shadow. Okay, so again here, so we have been addressing this color with RGBA. We could simply replace it with the root colors defined at the top and use bar here, like how we have been doing here. Okay, you can make all those amendments to the code and test it yourselves. Okay, so expense list. We have got our expense list here that has this expense category, which is draggable. Okay, so we have got this. Let's take a look how we have styled them. Expense list is display fix. Flex direction is column. There is a gap of 1 rem. Then there is expense category. What we're doing with category is, so what do we have inside here? We have span and the number. Okay, so what are we trying to do? Display flex, space between, center. We have got some padding, background, the border radius, border left. We are giving a border left of primary color. I'll show you what this border left will do in a while. Box shadow, and we have got the cursor move. Why are we setting move? Because we have set draggable true, and we'll be dragging and dropping them to sort the ordering. Okay, transition. Simple for this transform. We are adding the transition. Where is the transform? If we look into the hover effect here, so we have got this hover. Translate 4 pixels means it will be, whenever we hover, it will move towards 4 pixels towards the right. Okay, for that purpose we are using a transition here. And the background is also set to this color. We could simply use it at the same place. We don't have to use it differently. I'm not sure why I did that before. We can keep it separate at the same place. Okay, then we have got the delete expense. We won't be able to see here because we'll be adding that element dynamically using JavaScript later. Okay, and what do we have with the styles? There is a background color. Danger means a red color, color white, border none, then a width, height, and all other these properties. Cursor is pointer, padding, opacity, and the transition of all. Okay, likewise for the hover effect, we have opacity 1. So we have opacity 0.8 whenever it loads, and whenever we are hovering over it, then the opacity goes to 1. Okay, I might have repeated the expense category again. um, okay, looks exactly or almost the same. um, let's see, let's keep it like this for now. I'll have a look into the project, how everything is responding. If needed, we can simply replace this, or let me do that at the point here. Let's take a look into that. Let me bring those styles here and let's check what has changed. So I managed to write it down below again. So what do we have here? Padding, gap. We don't have a gap here. Okay, gap is necessary. So there's a background. We don't need this background. We have got card bg. Border radius, we have got the border radius defined here. Box shadow, cursor move. All right, so let's simply take this gap from here to paste it here, and let's remove these styles so that way it's updated. Okay, okay, so we are here. Expense category is span, flex 1, padding, there's a border radius. If we focus over that span, where's the span? Let's take a look. Span means the name of the expense. Okay, if we focus, then the background changes to white and there is a outline color. All right, let's take a look into the button styles as well. What buttons do we have? I've got this add new expense button. Okay, so for that button we are setting the background to secondary, color, border none, padding, border radius, cursor to pointer, margin top and a transition of all. And where is the transition taking place? It's in the hover effect here. So we're hovering over the button, then there is an opacity of 0.9. Transform property is set to translate y by -1 pixels. So it will move towards the top by 1 pixels. And let's take a look into summary content. What do we have in the summary content here? Do we have anything at the moment? Yeah, here we have summary content. There's two p tags. We are displaying them side by side. So we'll do a display flex space between and a margin bottom of 1 rem. Okay. All right. So those are the styles. Um, let's jump to this responsive styling at the end. I'll keep them at the end for now. So we'll do it here. Okay. All right, like this. Um, So what do we have? Total expenses and the remaining budget, right? So what do we have here? We have got total expenses and remaining budget. Total expenses would be displayed in red color, while the remaining budget would be displayed in a green color, success color. Okay. Then we have expense category, and we're adding a animation here. Okay. The same thing we could have done over here. Expense category, we could have simply added the styling here, the animation, but I'm writing the animation below here. So let's set the animation here, and keyframe slide in. So the name of the animation is slide in. So from opacity 1 translate -20 pixels to opacity 1 translate x 0. Okay, so what this will basically do is, at the initial position, means form means 0%, the opacity will be 0, and the expense category will be 20 pixels towards the left. And when it reaches 100% of animation, then we are going to show the component, the expense category, and then we're setting it towards the 0 pixels from the left. Okay, so we're basically moving from -20 pixels to 0 pixels. It's like a slide in animation, so we are creating that here. Okay, and then for smaller devices, there is a container. What we're doing is, we're setting 100% width to both of those left column and right column, padding and a little bit of gap. Similarly, for left column and right column, we are adding the padding of 1 pixels. Okay, so these are the styles. Let's take a look into the application and see how the styles have been implemented. Okay, so this is what it currently looks like. Okay, so we have got these. Okay, let me go through all of those now. So we have got income, monthly income. We can add in our incomes here. We have got total expenses. This one is in red, this one is in green, and you see each of these left column and right column are taking up 50% of width. Okay, and we have got these demo categories for now. Let me show you what that focus mean here. Okay, so this one is, okay, not draggable at the moment. Okay, so we'll be setting all of that using JavaScript in a while. Okay. Alright, so this is what we have styled so far. You can see that there is no pie chart here. We have the empty div. Okay, so we can't do anything with that for the moment. We'll be setting that in a while. Let me show you how the responsive version looks. And if I reload, so okay, and this is how it looks like. There's still a bit of work to do. I think that we can do in a while, or there's some work to be done that can be done by yourself. If there's anything, please leave a comment. I'll try to help it out with you. All right, so this is how it looks like. So it takes 15, sorry, the 100% width for the left column and the right column as well. Okay, so this is how it looks like. Let's see how we'll be using JavaScript to implement all of these. All right. Okay, so let's get back to the code. JavaScript. Let's start with that. I've commented the code here. Let me comment till the charts. we'll be looking into charts at the end only. So I'm commenting these out, and any code that would come up in the our JavaScript related to charts, I'll be commenting them out as well, so I can explain them later. Okay, so let's go have a look into our JavaScript code. All right, so this is how we have done um, in the JavaScript. Okay, what does the first line say? We are doing a DOM content loaded event listener, which means check if the page has fully loaded or not. If it does, then let's take all the necessary elements, select them, and store them in different constants. Okay, so what do we need for calculation? We would need monthly income, we would need expense list, we would need the total expenses and remaining budget, and we would need the add expense button to add new expense whenever we click on that button. Okay, so we're selecting all of these elements. All right, so what we have done, we have created a function to create a new expense category element with all necessary features. Okay, so let's test add expense button first, because we have kept that static for now. If you look into the code, so we have got these codes here, these are all static. We are not able to add a new dynamic expense here. So let's see how we can do that. All right, so what we have done, inside the expense category, or let's say expense list, we are adding a div with class expense category, and inside expense category we'll have this span, and we'll have a input field to add in the amount. Okay, so what we are doing here, we are doing is creating a new element div. We are setting the class name to expense category. We are setting the draggable property to true. Let's see here, the draggable property to true. And inside the element, what we are doing, we are doing a span tag. The new thing we have added here is this content editable equals to true. What this does is, whenever we double click on this span, it acts as a input field. We can type in, we can edit it, and we can do anything like what we could do with the input field. Okay, so content editable is a very good property, it's a very amazing feature from HTML that it provides. We're using this here, and we are setting the name. What is the name? The name is the new expense whenever the new element is created, but whatever we type in there, we'll be saving that as the name of the element. Okay, and afterwards, so let's see span, and what do we need? We need this number, and we need the placeholder. Okay, so we need this number, and we need the placeholder, and what will be the value? The value will be the amount. Okay, and there is another thing as well. So there is also a button to delete the expense, which is not seen here. We'll be adding that in a while. Okay, we'll have a look into how that has been done, and we'll check it out now. All right, so that is there. um Afterwards, what we will do is add event listeners for user interactions. What we are trying to do, if someone has added this element, okay, someone has created this element by clicking the button, then we want to update the budget and save the data. Okay, we'll be creating these methods in a while. Let's simply go through the code here first. What we are doing, in the new expense, in the input, which is this amount, if there is any input, then update the budget or save the data. Okay, not or and. Okay, do both of the actions, not just one. Then if the new expense has a span, and we are reading a blur event there. Okay, as in like you double click on it, you um, type on it, then you hit a tab or click outside of it, that means blur. And whenever that is done, then we are saving the data. Okay, what does save data do? We'll have a look in a while. And then there is new expense query selector, which is the delete expense button. If we delete it, then what to do? Remove the new expense, which is this element, remove it, and then update the budget and save the data. Okay, look at here. So this update budget, save data, these are being used in a lot of places because everything is done inside those methods. Okay, those methods are critical. We shall not make any mistake there. All right, and we also have the drag and drop functionality for the expense list, as I have shown in the demo before. How do we do that? There is a drag stat, drag over, and drop. These events are already provided in JavaScript by default, so we can simply add event listeners to those events. Okay, so in the expense, if we if we start dragging, then handle drag start. This is a new method we'll be creating. If the drag is over, then handle the drag over. If there is a drop, then handle drop. Okay, so we'll be having a look into how we'll be doing this, and at the end we are doing what is we are returning the new expense. All right, let's take a look into save and update first. Then we will come into looking how we are calculating the data, how we are loading the data from this local storage, and so on. Let's first go into save data. All right, okay, so what does save data do? Save data is basically used to save the current budget state to local storage. Okay, so save data, what it will do, it will convert all expense elements to a simple object array, and we'll store that array by the stringifying it into JSON and saving it in the local storage. All right, so let's take all the expenses, which are expense category. Array from means we are creating the array from all those elements, and map means loop through them. And what to do while looping is name will be set as whatever is in span. Okay, in the span, the content of span, and whatever is in the input value will be set it in amount, or if there is nothing entered, then we'll do is add empty there. Then what we are doing is creating a budget data, and income and expenses are set there. Okay, what is income? Income is the monthly income dot value. So we have got our income here. See here, monthly income, and value of this is the income, and expenses is this one. We are creating all of these expenses. I'll show you in a while how the data have been stored in the local storage as well. Okay, and after we have got our budget data, then we're simply setting the budget data as item in local storage by using json.stringify method budget data. Okay, so what it does is it creates a string of JSON. We'll have a look. Load chart. Let me comment it out for now. I don't want to load chart. We'll first see how everything is done, then finally we'll jump into loading the chart. All right. All right, so save data is done there. Let's have a look into update data. Sorry, the update budget, feels like tongue twisted here. Update budget. Okay. So what are we capturing here? The income, the monthly income value. Total expenses is 0 at the beginning. Let's first calculate all the total expenses. So we are selecting all the input fields inside the expenses and looping through them, and then adding all the values of the input field into the total expenses. So we are basically calculating total expenses out of all those input field values inside the expense category. And then we are setting the total expenses element text content as the expenses. Two fixed, two means after decimal point we'll have two values. Okay, so if it's 12.50, then it is displayed as 12.50. If it's 12.55555 as the value, then it is still shows as 12.55 only, because there is two fixed and two. All right, then there is another one, remaining budget element text content, that would be income minus total expenses, and we are doing the same here. Okay, and then we are saving the data. We are updating the budget, but then we are again saving the data to the local storage, because every time we are making any change we have to save it to local storage. So the data persistence is there, and whenever we come back, we load the browser, we can still see the data is there, the updated ones are still there. Okay, all right, so we have done these so far. Okay, let's simply take a look into how the project looks like at this point. Okay, so this is what it looks like, and why it looks like this is because I have already added 3000, then these expenses while I was showing you the demo. And just a while I talked about local storage and data persistence, and this is what happens when we are updating data to the local storage. So anytime I reload the page, we can still see the values that were previously entered. Let me show you the local storage and how the data has been stored there. That will be shown in application. There is this local storage, and we have saved this budget data here. All right, so what does budget data look like? Let me show you here. What it looks like is there is this expenses is an array. There is the first array with amount 500 and name as rent. Okay, amount 500 and name as rent. The second one is general, amount 250. The third one is new expense, we haven't added any name. Let me say this as car expenses. Okay, if I blur, if I hit tab, then what is here? So you can see the name has been updated. If I do 150, hit tab, then that has already been updated here. And if I try to reload the page, then that's still there. Okay, then there is groceries with amount 500. And how the drag and drop functionality is working at the moment, I'll go through the code in a while, but it's let me see if it's working or not. Okay, that's working, right? So why drag and drop? It's because we are updating here. Okay, so after rent we have groceries, so next time I come here, then rent groceries will be there. Okay, so far what we have done, we have saved to the local storage. We are calculating the budget summary, the remaining budget from this income. Okay, if I update the income, let's say 3500, then you see the values are already updated, and the values are updated in local storage as well. Great. So this is what we were talking about local storage before. It's a very great tool to use to create simple kind of applications that has data persistence. Its own database is stored in the browser. Okay, all right, so we have done this. Now let's take a look into loading those data into the form. Okay, now you can see it's already loaded, but we haven't gone through the code, and we'll do that now. All right, so let's take a look into loading the data first, and then only we'll jump into the drag and drop functionality, followed by the high charts. Okay, so far what we have seen is saving the data, updating the budget, and how that are all reflected in the local storage whenever we are updating the data. Okay, but now let's go into see and how we have been loading the data from the local storage. Alright, so first we are fetching the data using json.parse. Why we are doing this is because when we are saving the data, we are doing json.stringify. This is converting the data into JSON. And when we are fetching the data, then we have to parse the data into JSON. And what's the item name? It's budget data, so we are fetching that. And if there is no budget data, then we are simply setting the default one as income null and expenses as a null array. Okay, then the monthly income dot value will be set as the income value, and expense list dot inner html will be set as empty first. Then we'll loop into all the elements that we have fetched from here, shape data dot expenses. Okay, and what we are doing, we are creating the expense element. Okay, that's why we created the function, otherwise we would be writing the same code again and again. So we have created this method, and what does this method do is, let's take a look here. So what does this do is create a new expense, add the event listeners to all of them, and then save, update, does everything there, add the event listeners to drag and drop functionality, and everything is done there. All right. Okay, so that one is there, and then update the budget. That's how we have been fetching the data from the local storage. All right. So um, we'll do chart data in a while. We're not going to look into that. Let's go look into the drag and drop functionality now. Okay, what do we have here? All right, so let's first set the drag element as null. Whichever element we're dragging, we're setting as null first, and then whenever the drag event is started, then we are setting the element as this. This means whichever element we have dragged, that one will be set as the element. Then e.data transfer dot allowed effect equals to move, means this is the command where we are saying that we are starting to move the element. Okay, e means this event dot data transfer dot effect allowed equals to move, so we're simply moving the element. All right. Likewise, whenever the drag over is completed, then what we are saying, if the event prevent is there, then do the event prevent. Okay, prevent default means if there is a default event, whenever the drag over is done, then prevent it. What will this do? This will give us the opportunity to basically do the drag and drop. If there's anything that has been assigned as the default action, then that would be done and we won't be able to drag. Okay, for that purpose we are basically preventing the default, and then we would say drop effect will be move. Here what we're doing, we're doing effect allowed is move, and when the drag is over, then we're saying drop effect is move and return false. Afterwards, don't do anything. Okay, so drag and drop. And how do we handle the drop here? So first, step propagation. Okay, step propagation means what does it do? Let me show you here if it has any. So it's similar to prevent default. Okay, so if there's any propagation set to the event, then that would be stopped. All right. And let's see, if drag element is not this, means whichever element we have started dragging is not equal to the element that has been dragged. Okay, that has been dropped. Let's say here in the code, if we are starting to drag this, okay, let's say drag from here, and if here we are dragging it and dropping it here now, if this is not the same element, then what we are doing is reorder element based on drop position. Okay, so if this is general, we are starting to drag, and here, so if we do it here, then what does this mean? We are dragging general and we are dropping it in groceries. The both of those elements are not same. Okay, therefore what it does is it sets the parent node as this dot parent node. This will be the parent, the groceries, and source index will be the parent dot children index of drag source element. What is the index of drag source element? 0 1 2. Okay, so groceries was, or let's say we dragged in general from here. Let's go keep it here. All right, so what's the index here? 0 1 2 3. This is the index. We're dragging it, dropping it in index number 1. Okay, and destination index will be index number 1. If the source index is less than destination index, then we would say insert before. Okay, if the source index is this one. Let's say, let me bring it back here again. So the source index means 3 is less than 1. Is it true? Of course not. Then we do insert before the drag source element this. So the source element will be before the element, otherwise it will be after the element. Okay, so that's how it has been handled. And after that we are saving the data. What does save data do? It again saves the ordered elements into the local storage. Okay, so this is how drag and drop functionality is done. Please try on your own, try to create a different simple project first using these methods: handle drag start, handle drag over, or handle drop. These are basically just the name of the functions. How are we accessing them is through here. So we are adding the drag start, drag over, and drop event listeners to the new expense. Simply create these, go through the code, try to understand it, how everything has been handled. If anything goes wrong, if you need help with something, please leave a comment, and I'll be getting back to you, and we can solve the issue together. All right. Okay. So this is what we have handled so far. Great going. Let's see what we have below that. What do we have here is add expense button dot click. What is add expense button? Add expense button means this one. Okay, so add expense button, and whenever we're clicking it, what do we do is create new element and then update budget, save data. Okay, that's what we have done. Likewise, if we update the monthly income, then what are we doing? We are doing the update budget, save data. Okay, and here after everything has been done, what we have done is we are calling the load save data. Why are we doing it afterwards is that we are calling this so that whenever the browser loads, then everything is loaded and displayed at the first. Okay, we don't have to do it again and again. If I don't call that method, let's say I'm not calling that method, and if I hit reload, then see, everything is reset. The data is still there, but we are not able to see the changes. It is reset to 0, this one is reset to 0, there is no income, there are no values in the expenses, and so on. So we are calling the load saved event method here. Great going. All right, so far we've been able to do all of these. If I remove these, see how the data has been updated here. If I do again, see the data is already updated. Do again, the data is updated. Remove, the data is updated. Total expense is updated. Add new expense, I can click on it. So this is what content editable means. I can double click on it. It acts like a input field. Okay, tap and do a 500, and that's immediately reflected here. We've been doing great so far. Let's take a look into how we can load charts and display the expenses and income in a pie chart. All right, let's go here. Let me bring those chart scripts back. Where do we find these? Okay, so we can find these in Highcharts. If we go to Highcharts, then click on the link. Hello. And then we have got these demos, or we have got the documentation. So installation, we have got this. Okay, the scripts are here, and keep on following from here. So you'll see what do we need. So for export, what do we need? We would need the exporting module here. Okay, so we have got all of these things here. So from this I've exported, I've used accessibility for accessibility purpose. There is exporting functionality, and we are displaying the high charts. All right, so we have uncommented everything. Let's go back to our script and see how the load chart is done. Okay, before that, let me go and uncomment that line where I have commented load chart. Okay, here it is, load chart. Let me uncomment. Where are we calling this? Whenever the data is saved, then we are saying load the chart again. Okay, means the data has been updated or a new data has been added, so load it. And what does load chart mean? What does it have? So load chart is Highcharts.chart. What are we passing here is the budget chart. And what is the budget chart? Is this empty div we have created before. Okay, empty div. I mentioned before that we are going to be showing a pie chart here. So we are accessing that name. What type of pie chart we are creating? It's pie chart. The title will be income and expenses. The credits is enabled false. This removes the highcharts.com text. That's a kind of watermark that comes with the chart. So to remove that, we have this feature. Then the plot options is basically the data we're supplying um, to the chart. Okay, and here what do we have is a series. Where do we get all this? So these are all found in the Highcharts documentation. Okay, so nothing to be worried about how to write all this. So basically everything is found there in the documentation, where we can simply copy paste them and then bring it here and make necessary changes based on our data and whatever we require. All right, so series, allow point select, cursor, and data labels will be in this format. Okay, so point dot y means this is in the y-axis, and then point dot percentage will be displaying the percentage. Font size, we can add our own styling here. Then there is the filter operator greater than property percentage value 5, lower threshold to show more levels. Okay, these are all copied from the documentation. If you go through the documentation properly, you'll understand all of this. And in the series, we are setting the name as budget distribution. Color by point true, that means every point will have its own color. Like each of the groceries we add, it will have its own color by default. Okay, high charts have its own colors defined. We don't have to define on our own. And where does this data come from? The data is coming from calculate chart data method. Okay, it's already defined here. And what does this method do? It gets the income, gets all the expenses, and sets the chart data as empty array first, because we need to pass the data as an array. So empty array first, loop in through all the expenses and get the total. Okay, in the expenses, and remaining will be income minus expenses. If the remaining is greater than 0, then simply push the value as an object in the array named chart data. So push the object with the name remaining budget. Y is remaining means y-axis. Okay, but here in this case there is no y-axis or x-axis because it's a pie chart. But this is the naming convention, we must use this, we can't use anything else. And the color is defined as green color for remaining budget. Okay, so this is what we have. And again, add each expense category. This is basically for remaining income. Okay, and for each of the expenses we're looping through them. If the amount is greater than 0, then only we're showing it. Okay, if it's not greater than 0, then there is no point in showing it in the pie chart because that has no effect at all. So if it's greater than 0, then name of the expense and the amount will be displayed in the pie chart. All right, so that is how we are doing it. So that is the complete script for now. Let's take a look into what has been done and see if the pie chart is working fine or no. All right, yeah, that's great. So that's working. Let me update this to 4,000. Okay, so you can see that the remaining is changed to 3,500 because the expenses is 500. Let me add a new expense. You see that the chart loads, but since the amount is 0, then it doesn't show up in the pie chart. Okay, even if I do a 1 here, then that shows up. Okay, this is the one. New expense budget distribution is 1. Okay, but let's say groceries, and the value is 450. Now the groceries shows here, 450, and the percentage is 11.3, 12.5, 76.3. Likewise, the total expenses is updated, the remaining budget is updated as well, and we can remove it. Okay, if we remove it, then simply the value is removed, and from the pie chart as well the value is removed and the chart is updated. All right, so this is what we have for this project. um, the JavaScript portion may look like there is a lot of work. In fact, there is, but nothing that cannot be done. So everything is here. You can follow up. If there is anything missing or you need any sort of new feature or you are stuck anywhere else, please let me know. Let me know in the comments. And in case you would need the source code for the project, do leave it in the comment as well. I'll get back to you, and we can decide how you'd want the code for the project. All right, thank you so much.